Right, welcome to our first lesson on collecting data. What we're going to be doing today is to look at two types of data. The first one being primary data and the second one being secondary data. Okay, I want us to think about you having 20 students in a particular class, right? And these 20 students, there are boys there and there are girls. And what you're interested to find out is who amongst the boys and the girls are better in maths. So you might be thinking that, say, for example, the boys are better in maths than the girls. So you might be thinking something like that. And all you now want to do is to prove whether that is true or not. So what you're going to need to do, you're going to need to do to find your data. You're going to need to collect the data that is going to help you to prove that. Okay, and the data could be the test scores. Okay, so give them a test and then mark it and then just compare the results. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is two types of data. With this scenario, there are two things you can do. You can prepare a test and give it to them and then mark it, and then you can then see from the results whether boys are better than girls or not. So if that's the case, then you're talking about primary data. So primary data is the data you collect yourself. So you prepare the test yourself, give it to them, mark it, and then see who is better. Now, another thing you could do, you can go to their teacher and you ask the teacher to print out some results of the test they did long time ago. Okay, maybe last module or last term or last year, right? And then you can just compare. So secondary data is data that has been collected by someone else. So you can just go to the internet or you go to the computers in the school and just print out the data, which will tell you who amongst the boys or the girls are better. Okay. So primary data is data you collect yourself by doing a survey or an experiment. Secondary data is the data that's already there. You can just go and print it out from the internet or just look it up in newspaper or in a book or something. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. So two types of data. I would like you to pause the video and try this example one question, please. So pause the video and have a go at that. Right, so hope you've tried this. It says Maria wants to know if there's a link between area and population in 10 African countries. So she might think that the bigger the country is, the higher the population. Okay, and that could make sense. Now, what piece of data does Maria need to find? There are two sets of data here. Number one would be the area, the size of these countries. And number two would be the number of people living in this country, the population size. So that's the information she needs. Where could Maria get the data from? She can print this out from the internet. Or she can go to government offices and they can just print this data out for her. Now, is Maria's data primary or secondary data? Again, because she's just printing it out from the internet, that's going to be secondary data. Okay, so that's how to answer this kind of a question. Okay. Okay, so the next one, I would like you now to pause the video again and try this example 2 question before I go over it. So pause the video and try this. Okay, hope you've tried it. It says, John wants to test whether a 6-sided dice has an equal chance of landing on each of its sides. Explain how he could collect data for the test. Is this data primary or secondary data? Okay. Now he's got a dice in his hand, and he's wondering whether this dice is fair or it's not fair. Okay, so 6-sided dice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, all the way around it. So throwing this dice, pretend it's a cube, throwing this dice, you want to see whether it's got equal chance of landing on a 1 or a 3 or a 2 or a 5 or a 4 or a 6. The only way you can do that is to do an experiment. You throw the dice as many times as possible and you just do the tally for the sides where the dice lands on. So practically, you're going to be having a table to put your results in. So John needs to do an experiment. He could roll the dice lots of times and record how many times it lands on each side using a tally chart. The results he gets in a tally chart will tell him whether this dice is fair or not. If the dice is fair, then he will expect to find more or less the same number of times that this dice lands on a number. Okay. He collects the data himself, so this is basically primary data. Okay. Right, pause the video now. With this question, all you need to do is to tell whether they are primary or secondary. All you need to do is to tell whether they are primary or secondary data. Remember, primary is what you do yourself. You connect yourself through using things like questionnaire or doing an experiment to collect the data yourself. Secondary is what has been done for you. You just go and get it. Okay, so pause the video and try question 1 to 4, please. Okay, hope you tried it. So I'm just gonna go over a couple of questions. Megan and Jen want to find out the types of music that students like. Megan plans to send a questionnaire to students from her college, while Jen plans to use the results of an online music survey on the college website. Now, Megan is designing a questionnaire, then she's giving it out, which means that she's doing what? She's using primary data. She's collecting the data herself using questionnaire. Whereas Jen is only printing the information from the internet, so that's going to be secondary. Okay. Question 3. James plans to interview people as they leave a supermarket to find out how often they shop there. So James is standing by the supermarket and is asking people one by one. So he's collecting the data himself, so that's going to be primary. Okay. So this is how these questions are done. So all I'm going to ask you now, if you pause the video and just use these answers to mark your work quickly. Okay, hope you done that. That's going to be the end of this video.